Let us know where you guys are from, when you graduate, or if you have taken your NCLEX. And then we'll do all of our intros and stuff. But you guys come first and tell us where you're from, and we'll tell you a little something about us. So yeah,
We
nice.
always love hearing where everyone's from. We get such a great variety of really all over the world. I always love hearing that.
Yeah, Regina. All right. And then let's see here. If you guys can put let's see. So Regina, if you can just switch over to everyone, that'd be cool. But Regina's from Connecticut, Natasha, Massachusetts,
Ooh,
Nebraska.
Nebraska. Ooh, it's been a bit since we had Nebraska.
Yeah.
And the
Pretty
last day of
cool.
clinical day.
Heck yeah.
Congratulations.
I
Now you
love it.
start to get getting paid for it.
I know, I know.
It's
That's the
your
biggest
last day
thing.
of clinical. After this, you get paid for it.
Oh wow, love it from UK. Lauren from California. She just passed her NCLEX. Very nice.
We have some from Kentucky. It looks
Oh.
like a few from Florida.
Oh, nice. So Amy, you're not even, you're a medical assistant now? Very cool. I got to tell you, like I've met so many LVNs and medical assistants that I'm like, guys, just push it through and just get your RN.
Mhm.
It sucks and it stinks, just to go through all that schooling. But as we are all here, like the majority of us are through our RN program, so worth it, guys, just to be a one and done, never have to take your NCLEX again, and you're getting paid like double, if not
Mhm.
triple, maybe four times. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah,
So very,
absolutely.
all right. Very cool. We have a lot of people from different areas here.
I
Natasha's
saw
take European. Oh, sorry, go
Oh, I was
ahead.
gonna say I saw in Illinois, which is where and then I just saw Indiana. I just moved from Illinois to Indiana.
What? Wait, where are you at in Indiana now?
Carmel, Indiana.
Carmel. Does it
Mhm.
does it snow over there or?
Yes, not as bad as Chicago. In fact,
Oh yeah.
I was very excited. Another Indiana person.
Oh yeah.
Hello, fellow Hoosier. I recently saw that since I just moved from Chicago, I saw something on Instagram that said that they're predicting it's going to be Chicago's snowiest and coldest winter since 2013. And I was
Oh,
like, I'm so glad this is happening as soon as I left.
mm,
It kind of like makes you not, it's like, okay, that makes it so that way I miss it even less.
yeah.
Um, oh,
Very
welcome, Jude.
cool.
You are not late. No worries. You were right on time. We were just kind of getting acclimated, getting introduced to everyone.
Very cool. Out of town Afghan over here. It's so funny. We had a one of our first social media person was from
Mhm.
Afghani as well. It's so cool. So
And
guys,
two Nebraska people. That's awesome.
wait, let's see. Hold on just a sec.
Also, I love it. I feel like we don't get a lot of Nebraska people, but two in one night. I love it. Oh,
Heck yeah, I love
wonderful.
it.
Um, Someone said that that they're in their early 60s and that they need to complete AMP2. So they are just getting started, but it is never too late. I've had students, I think one of my oldest students who graduated was in his late 70s. It is never too late to do your dream job and to go down a career path, change career paths, whatnot. It is absolutely never too late.
It's never too late for sure. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. It's, how do we change from panic to practice? Because I remember when I was a nurse or, new grad, actually even happened before that when I was on the ambulance. Um, I used to be like rolling up to the scene. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
well, call 911. I'm like, oh crap, I am 911. And like, now you are a nurse. They're like, what do I do? So it's a little frantic. You probably had some imposter syndrome, right, Allison?
Oh,
Like a
100%.
little.
There was one night shift I worked at a hospital and a patient was on hospice. And it was anticipated they were going to die during my shift. And I thought, wait, what? We know this? Because I would always, be driving to work, white knuckling it, thinking, please don't let anyone die. Please don't let anyone die. Please don't let anyone die. That was like my biggest fear. And I came onto the shift and they said, so, don't be surprised if your patient passes tonight. He doesn't have any family. His
Oh,
POA is his pastor who came and told him it was okay to let go. They said like last goodbyes and all that. So it's a good chance that he'll die tonight. And I thought, wait, what? And then when he did actually pass, and I called, I grabbed the charge nurse so that they could help me walk through the process. And of
Mhm.
course, I was panicking and, trying to what to do first. Especially, someone versus someone who's like DNR, hospice, end of life care versus what you think you're supposed to typically do when someone's heart stops breathing if you have not response or stops beating. And the on-call physician, when I called them to let them know, they said, okay, well, you can go ahead and call it because the charge nurse told me that a physician would come and be the one to call it officially. And he said, you can go ahead and call it. I trust you. And I was thinking, you trust me? I don't trust me. Why would you trust me? And I probably sat in the room for a while thinking, like, what if they take a breath all of a sudden? Because especially with like the Cheyenne Stokes breathing, they can do the periods of big breathing, then apnea. I thought, okay, what if they're going to take a big deep breath? So I think there's all these times that you can have where you second guess things and whatnot. Um, so yes, there could be times
Yeah.
where you panic and think, wait, I'm the person that gets to make the call on this. I'm the person that does this.
Mhm.
Um, but especially how to kind of conquer those fears and move out of that imposter syndrome and realize everyone goes through it.
Yep, we all go through it. And today we're going to be bringing to you some of the top tips that we learned as nurses. Professor Allison and I have been nurses for over, a decade. And with us today is Joe Easley. She's our newest of the new grad, which are not so new, but you're a lot more new than both of us. So we just want to be the first ones to welcome you guys. It's going to be a great session today. We're going to show you all the tips and tricks that we wish we would have had during, our new grad training or orientation. And so you guys know me. We still need Joe on this list, but I'll introduce all of us. You guys know me from Simple Nursing. We do all the videos and fun stuff. And if you guys didn't know, we have music videos and Spotify albums and we have new podcasts that just released. And we're going to be talking a little bit about our net new baby that just came out, which is our new grad prep course, which is 30 plus videos and resources showing you how to build your resume, interview tips, as well as all the things that we wish we would have known before we were nurses or new grad nurses. And then Professor Allison, as I mentioned before, she has been a nurse for over 10 years and got her start in med surg and now
Mhm.
travels all over the world, or all over the country, I should say, helping with exit prep for those exit exams and NCLEX too. So
Mhm.
you're actually leading a new department now, I think, right?
Ooh. Oh yes. Well, now watched over a few departments at a very small campus, and so
Nice.
a lot of people have their hands in a lot of different buckets, which is kind of fun. I love it. It's kind of like almost being back in float pool,
Oh,
where it's
yeah.
like before I was so used to being a larger campus, and so I always taught the same thing, rinse and repeat. But now it's like float pool. Next term, you might be teaching this and this and this.
Bless me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what nursing's all about. Especially being a new grad nurse, it's all about just learning and getting your hands into as many things as you can. Nurse Joe, you've been the newest of the new grads here on our team, and you've been a nurse for what, 2 or 3 years? Yeah,
Almost 3 years. Yeah.
and you just transferred over to mother baby, yeah?
Yes. So labor and delivery. I was in adult acute care. So like a glorified med surge, a little bit more risky for 2.5 years. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be pulling on Joe just to have her influence because Professor Allison and I, sometimes we forget how new we were, and so it's nice to have Nurse Joe here.
Mhm.
But we want to be the first ones to tell you guys of something new that we just created. So as you guys know, Simple Nursing helped you throughout nursing school, right? With our thousands of videos and helpful memory tricks and study guides. And we also helped you with your NCLEX prep if you guys saw our NCLEX Mastery series, or even used some of the videos for that. And so it's just natural that, we would help you as a new grad. So we were just kind of like sitting back and thinking like, everyone just leaves all these nurses as like orphan children after you pass your NCLEX, right? Like Archer and UWorld and Kaplan's and Hesse and ATI and everyone else. No one really does like, hey, this is what you should know as a new grad. This is what, I wish I knew as a new grad. So that's what we did. We put it all together in one place and we call it the New Grad Mastery Series or the New Grad Membership Course. And basically, what we have here is we sat down with some of the leaders, the top leaders at Ivy League hospitals or magnet-set hospitals, from Cedars-Sinai to the University of Maryland to City of Hope Cancer Center. And we sat down with the hiring managers and we're like, yo, what do you ask for interview questions? What do you look for on resumes? And they just spilled the beans to us. And we have dozens of videos from those conversations. We even put in skills refresher libraries, 60-second videos. So when you're on the floor and you have, let's say, a heart attack, cardiac patient, MI patient, a stroke patient, and let's say someone else, you can literally go in and you can get a refresh in 90 seconds of the top three things that you should look for, as well as the patho. Just wrap it immediately. And with Skills Refresher, we have all your top skills from EKG to, IV to Foley to NG tube. And you don't have to be scouring the internet. I've heard people like, looking through their books, like fumbling around. You can literally just do one click, a one and done, 60 seconds, and it'll all be wrapped up. And there's so much more in there. We did like 30 other videos about career guidance, like how to handle burnouts. Also, like where do you start? Do you do med surge first, like everyone says, or do you do other specialties first? Also, career guidance, like nurse practitionership versus CRNA. So we put it all in there into this new grad prep course. And the best part is we give you guys CEUs for it because now you have to maintain your license as a registered nurse or as a licensed nurse. Even if you're an LPN, it's still a license. So all these CEUs you can use for when you have to renew. So that's really cool. At the end of this webinar, we're going to give you guys a special link to join with a 20% discount. And I believe it's good for the membership's good for a year. So it's really helpful. And throughout all the interviews we did, and Allison and probably Joe, you can attest to this. It's like you don't really feel comfortable as a nurse until around a year to even up to a year and a half. So it's just a mind games. It's just like the big theme that we were noticing throughout all the 30 videos we did is that, be kind to yourself. You're not dumb, you're just new? And I think there's a lot of anxiety around being new because you're like, I'm gonna hurt someone, am I gonna kill someone? Like, what happens if, oh my gosh. You spent all your time trying to become a nurse, and the last thing you want is for it to be taken away, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today is what to expect for this session is we're just going to be talking about the real challenges of transitioning from nursing school to real world practice. That's the hardest part is you have all the schooling, you have all the pharmacology, you barely passed your test, you have all this information, and now it's like, holy moly, I have to apply this. So that's why we put the bumpers on or like the training wheels on, and we're like, okay, there's a lot of stuff to focus on, but focus on these main core areas, and you're going to be an amazing new grad nurse. And we're going to reveal some of those today, but again, all of it's in the new grad prep course. We're also going to give you guys the expert advice of how to handle some of the most challenging and common new grad fears. And then a real big one here is we're going to be answering Q&As. So post your guys anytime, but here's the thing. Don't post it inside of the chat feed. It's going to get lost in the sauce. So post it in the Q&A button. I believe it's under the More tab, maybe, on your guys' little dashboard there on Zoom. So put it in the Q&A area. But for any tech issues, use our chat box. But again, use the Q&A button for any questions that we're going to answer live at the very end. And if you're joining from YouTube, just submit your questions in the comment section. Robin and Adia do a great job. There's our support system here at Simple Nursing and our parent company. And they're going to feed us the questions as you guys are coming in through YouTube. And also, too, we're going to be sending this out via email just in case you have to leave early. But we'll also post it online as well. Cool. So, without any further ado, my nose is running. I'm like, better go catch it. Okay. So, we're going to talk about how to transition into practice from panic to actually practice and really conquering your fears. I mean, it's a different fear, I would say, going from, NCLEX, because NCLEX, you're going to have stress, right? Like all of us have stress. But actually working on an actual person and now you're the responsible nurse with your license on.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole different like unlocked fear. Yeah. So we're going to show you how not to make mistakes. So fear number one is just that. making a mistake that harms a patient. Like this was one of my number one fears. Especially my first time hanging blood. I'm like, oh my
Mhm,
gosh, am I doing this correctly? Because I can take
mhm,
a test, man, and I can be like, oh yeah, this is cool. If you get the question wrong, you get the question wrong.
mhm,
If you get it wrong in real life, dude, like, oh my gosh, that's someone's life in your hands. You're like, holy moly.
mhm,
So, according to all the surveys that we did for new grads, this is actually one of the most common fears. So, if
mhm.
it's your fear, it's actually good fear to have because it means that you actually care. Um, so the pressure of patient safety, dude, a big one is medication administration. There's so many medication errors out there right now, and that's the number one leader of what causes damage. I think it's in the top three nationwide in all the hospitals.
Oh,
And
wow.
also, yeah, clinical decision making. All of that can compound and make it just paralyzing to do your job as a new grad nurse, right? Uh,
Mhm,
like you started on med surg, right, Allison? So that's
mhm.
like,
Absolutely. And I feel like I was on one of those units that's always short staffed, always, even when I worked night shift, it felt like it was a little bit more, compared to day shift, a little bit more controlled chaos, but it was still felt like chaos. And especially when you feel like you have so much to do in so little time. And that, I remember at one point, especially as a new grad, I would be running patient room to patient room mainly because I felt like I needed to get things done faster, faster, faster because I always felt behind. And I actually had a charge nurse tell me, you need to stop running because you're in a hospital and people think there's an emergency when you run. And in my mind, I was just thinking, well, I'm trying to get everything done so quickly. And especially I found like it was kind of, it paralleled times when I made mistakes in nursing school on exams was the same times that I made mistakes in real life practice with patients was when I was going too fast. I'd miss little things. And so, especially taking the time to slow down, because during nursing school, if I'm taking a test too fast, because I hated tests, I just wanted them to be over with as quickly as possible. And I'd skim read the question, I'd miss something and make a mistake on the answer. But like Mike said, when you do that in real life, if you're going too fast because you're thinking I have to do this and this and this, and I'm making a fool of myself running room to room, that's when it can be so easy to make a mistake. Just like you make a mistake in a question, you don't read it fully, but especially slowing down. There's certain things that maybe we can do with a little more foot speed and a little more um, pep in our step. But then some things, especially those high risk tasks, if we know it's the first time a patient's getting a med, if we know that if it is blood product, if it's anything that we have to be double checking with someone else, not just be like, oh, well, as long as they're looking it over, then I'm just going to speed this, check through this. But making sure that we're using appropriate checklists, even slowing down to ask questions so which goes right into the next one, ask early. um Especially like clarifying. As a new grad, that can be one of the hardest things is admitting when you don't feel confident, admitting when it's the first time you've ever done something, and then asking for help with that. Because for me, I remember I always was trying to show them that I don't know why I thought that I was going to get I don't know why I thought I was going to get brownie points for being the quickest, new grad they ever had to pick something up. Or, I kept wanting compliments about how quickly I was learning something. And that was just extra pressure I was putting on myself to function at a speed of expertise that I didn't have yet. And like Mike said earlier, this is the one time you get to be new. It is okay. It does not mean you're stupid, it does not mean you're slow. There is no extra brownie points from catching on quicker than an internal competition you have with yourself, or, that you have with an if you're like, okay, well, maybe if I get through orientation faster, take your full orientation. Because again, that's your time that you get to be new, get to ask questions. So utilize that and ask early, especially if, by going too fast, you make a mistake. Oftentimes, fixing that mistake adds more to your list and can cause more on your to-do list and then make the problem even worse. So Mike, it looks like you're going to add something to that.
yeah, I was gonna say like one of the biggest things that I learned from my preceptor, and we sat down with about I think six preceptors from
Mhm.
these Ivy League hospitals, and we asked like, what's the number one mistake that new grads constantly make? And preceptors from the ER, ICU, and med surg, like some of the top three departments. And
Mhm.
that's what I'm saying. Like when you're in a rush, go slow because, you know, you start trying to skip steps. And when that's fine to kind of do when you're experienced and you have 10 years under your belt. But when
Mhm.
you're new, you don't know which steps to skip. And like, it's like, dude, you're probably skip the wrong step. And that's when people get hurt.
Right.
So, Allison, I'm sorry, Joe, you want to add something here?
Yeah. So depending on what floor you're on, or even what hospital you're at, if you're in a new grad program, you're going to be under a lot of not scrutiny, but eyes are going to be on you, right? Because you're the new one. They know that you're learning. You have an excuse to be learning, but also if you can take a moment, you need to go ahead and go to your hospital's policy. A lot of the time, Elucid, or they'll have a certain area on a computer when you go to your WOW or whatever the computer is called on your unit. Always go to policy. Every single
Mhm.
state and every single hospital has different policies. Those policies are going to show skills and procedures on what you
Mhm.
should be grabbing, what steps you should be doing. Because at the end of the day, you are a part of that hospital.
Mhm.
Yes, you have the orders from the doctors, which you're double checking. Even if pharmacy, says yes and the doctor says yes, you're still the one giving it or doing it. You are the one who has to look up policy from your hospital. It could be as simple as, Joe, I want you to do this Foley or this NG tube or whatever it is. I'm going to go to my WOW,
Mhm.
my computer. I'm going to go to the Lucid. That's what we use at the hospital I work at. And then I'm going to look up that policy. I'm going to go to the skills. And I'm going to go up there and I'm going to type, I'm going to print out or I'm going to write it out. I say print it out
Mhm.
just because then you can bring it to your preceptor, orienter, and you're going to follow those steps. You're going to say, okay, before I go into the patient's room, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And you're going to say it out loud because you have already read through it because you are competent and you have just graduated nursing school and you know the best practice is to know what you're going to do before you do it. You're going to read through the skills. You're like, okay, I'm going to do these tips in order. I'm going to say it out loud to myself. And then I'm going to go to my trainer. And then I'm going to say, okay, so when I go in the room, can I just run this by you? I'm going to go to my room based off the policy for this hospital. I'm
Mhm.
going to do blank, 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 blank with these supplies. How's that sound? They're going to be like, yeah, that's great. Do that. Less steps. Slow down and don't do
Mhm.
something just because it's an opportunity. Do something when
Mhm.
you're ready and you're prepared and know how to find that information. And if you don't know
Mhm.
how to do it and you don't know how to find the information, you humbly ask. Okay?
I love that.
Humbly ask is the key because man, that was actually a huge topic in our new grad prep course. It's like how to
Mhm.
get all these nurses on your bad side is acting like a know-it-all, especially
Mhm.
when you're new. And usually when you're new, you're the slowest person inside the assembly line or on the team, and that means
Mhm.
that other nurses are gonna have to wait for you or help you out, and so you're
Mhm.
dragging the unit down kind of. And so just that's why I always say have big ears, big eyes, and one small little mouth, especially in your
Mhm.
first 90 days. That'll go a long way. Just because, dude, like some of these nurses have been on that unit for a decade, sometimes two
Mhm.
decades, man. And that place is like their second home. And to have a new person come into their home and show disrespect or act like a know-it-all, that's not going to do well. And that's an easy way for everyone to get on your bad side. And you don't want to do that. So
Mhm.
trust me, because I'm talking from experience. I did that at one of the hospitals and like I was like, whoops. I did it unintentionally because okay, just a little side note here. It's not even the script, but some nurses were like, knew me from YouTube. This is like early on, and they're like, I want to take a picture with you. I'm like, oh, okay. And some thought I was like showboating, so they like talked to
Mhm.
the directors. Anyways, I got under people bad side. So just be careful. Learn from my
Mhm.
mistakes. Don't do it. All right. Speaking of being a know-it-all, fear number two is actually not knowing enough, which I was
Mhm.
there. My first new grad job, I still remember my preceptor did everything for me. And I was like, how am I going to learn? My biggest fear was how to hang blood. And I'm like, how am I going to learn how to hang blood
Mhm.
if she's doing all of it? I'm like, throw me in the game. So many new nurses worried that school didn't prepare them enough for real life
Mhm.
nursing and that you're going to encounter a situation where you really don't know what to do next. And honestly, that's what a new grad is being about. So, really advocating for yourself and being like, okay, maybe kindly telling your preceptor, humbly saying like, hey, can I do this skill? Which I
Mhm.
did with my preceptor, and she kind of like brushed me off. The only reason she was a preceptor, to be honest, was because she needed that on her resume to be a flight nurse. And I'm like, oh man. So she wasn't even doing it for the right reasons.
Hmm. Which you
And
have
then
that.
yeah. And then so I had to talk to my director. So I switched preceptors. But just expect to not know what you're doing, and that's
Mhm.
completely normal, right? Like, right, Alison? You probably felt the same way.
100%. And I feel like we've, in previous one of these career nights, we've gotten questions about preceptors and what if, or, you know, nurses with experience, what to do if you feel like you're not getting the best experience from them. You
Hmm.
know, first try to talk it out with them because sometimes people don't realize, you know, they may be just be thinking about all the things they have to accomplish and they may not be realizing how that is being perceived by you. So always try to have a conversation with them, and if that doesn't work, if you feel like they're wanting to be a preceptor for the wrong reason and they are not really amped to have you follow them, you know, or amped to be training you or not doing a great job, you know, if you don't feel like you're getting the best experience, you know, then level up because uh, it's important to make sure that you're again using this time because you get to be a new grad on orientation once or the new person on a new floor in orientation once, and you don't want to let anything, you know, undercut that. Uh, and especially, you know, like kind of like what I was talking about earlier. So other ways to conquer not feeling like you know enough is, you know, instead of like me feeling like I was trying to prove myself and trying to show that, oh, I'm the fastest learner that's of the new grads that they've ever seen on orientation, that proved nothing except put extra stress on myself that I didn't need to be adding because the only thing that they needed from me was not to be the fastest person, the fastest new grad they've ever seen, but was for me to be learning, you know, about what I was supposed to be doing to care for my patients and learning, you know, learning all the ropes, learning what to do in certain situations. And so, you know, give yourself grace too. Lots of times we put internal pressure on ourselves that we don't realize doesn't exist externally, that no one else is thinking that. You know, no one else is thinking, oh, they should be learning faster. Here's the orientation lasts this many weeks, but they should be doing it faster and going through these boxes faster. And so, not adding extra pressure on yourself, especially. And study what you see. If there's conditions, surgeries, meds from your patients, and you think, okay, they never talked about this in nursing school, you know, because there is that, you know, learning to practice shift, that theory to practice shift, and that gap. I actually had a funny text from a student, a former student who she graduated like well over a year ago and works in the ER at a hospital in Chicago. And she texted me and said, she said, in nursing school, you had me believing I'd be giving digoxin all the time because of how much we were tested over it, how many times, you know, there were memory tricks on it, all these different things. And she's like, today was the first day I've given digoxin. And because so lots of times the things that you get quizzed on a lot in nursing school because they're things that are, you know, can be very dangerous to give or whatnot, might not be what on your unit you're giving all the time. And so, you know, review those, learn about them just like you would if they were on a nursing school exam, you know, so that way you know what are the things to watch for and what are the things to educate your client on. So that way, if something happens, you're not panicking thinking it's something abnormal and it's really something normal, but just it wasn't something you'd heard of before. And that's okay. You remember the biggest thing is showing that you can be a safe practicing nurse. And also, I think one of the biggest things is find a mentor. And it could be the, you know, may not be the person who's assigned to be your preceptor. It could be someone else. I remember I found someone who helped me a lot that I felt very safe and comfortable to go to was another nurse in the unit who had recently gotten off orientation. So she was just like a little bit ahead of me, but it was nice because I felt like okay, she knows what it's like she still remembers and she would always, you know, give me help, tell me here's a great person to go to. Oh, and I'd be like, okay, well, this is going on with my patient. Who do I even page? And I felt safe to ask them questions. And so you know, find someone that you can either ask questions that, you know, even if it's just someone who makes you feel comfortable enough to ask those questions, that you don't feel like you're dumb or slow. Um, or even just someone you can say, hey, you're going to be doing that. I haven't seen that in a while, or I'd like to see the way that you do it. Can I come watch? All those things can really help you to start to learn more, especially if you feel like either it wasn't covered in school or maybe you only did it on a mannequin
Mhm.
versus a real life patient. But find people that you feel comfortable with asking who will kind of take you under their wing. The little mother bear of the unit.
There always is a mother bear, really.
Yeah.
It's really where there's two extremes to that spectrum, like a color palette, you know? There's like
Hmm.
always the Grinch that has like the grumpy mood,
Hmm.
all to the little pink cloud that's like Mother Goose. So your goal as a new grad is to find the Mother Goose. Sometimes your preceptor will be the Grinch,
Hmm.
and that's okay. Like that's all
Hmm.
you can do. And it stinks. And I mean, even Joe, like Joe's been a nurse for almost 3 years now. You just switched over to a brand new unit. And so it's almost like being a new grad, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because I'm learning antepartums, postpartums,
Yeah.
newborn training, and then laboring. It's a whole new thing. And one thing that I found is the things that I come with, they haven't like the experience I've recently had. A lot of them are like, oh no, I haven't had that in a long time. And so I'm able to draw that information and ask certain questions. I'm like, well, what about this? And they're like, I didn't even think about that. That's good. That's a good thing. I heard this one quote. It says, you can spot intelligence by someone who is always willing to change and not try to like stick to their guns on being right. It's all
Hmm.
about being like, I want to be intelligent, so I'm always going to be learning. So
Mhm.
I hope that you have a preceptor who is just accepting of you and wanting to
Hmm.
learn from you as well, if you have something to bring to the table. And here's the one thing. Oftentimes when you're like in a new unit, a new space, maybe new people, you want to be
Hmm.
likable. And they don't know you. They don't know if you're being eager or if you're just downright annoying. They don't know.
Hmm.
But but what they want to know is, okay, can this person read me? And if you're like, okay, I want them to know that I'm so happy to be here. And uh, here's a great question to ask them. If I have questions, when is a great time to ask you them? So they're like, oh,
Ooh.
being respectful. Okay. Some people like to say, oh, right in the moment. Just, oh, when we step out of the patient's room. Let's just say at the end of our shift, we'll have a debriefing. Everyone is so particular. If you just ask, if you're like, I just don't want to be annoying because I have these questions, just ask when is the appropriate time to ask you
Hmm.
questions. Should I stop you in the moment? Don't even, less words, the better. Just, and they're like, oh, because then you know how to read the room. You're doing
Hmm.
exactly what they want. That's it.
And that's all it really is. It's just human to human communication. And it's really
Hmm.
weird. Like you can totally be misunderstood rather than being like eagerness of being like, oh my gosh, to being like annoying. It's like
Hmm.
this like annoying person that's getting in my way of my work kind of thing. So it's all about asking the right questions, just like Joe said. And it's like these
Hmm.
little tiny little things that no one really tells you, which we packaged up a lot of these key points and bullet points into that new grad prep course.
Hmm.
Everything from like how to ask for help, how to talk to a doctor on the phone when you have to wake them up in the middle of the night, how to properly give reports in a concise way. There's
Hmm.
different types of reports, from change of shift report to actually transferring to another unit to maybe even going to surgery. But there's always like little things that I feel like a lot of these hospitals and onboarding programs, wherever you're going to be onboarded as, hopefully it is a residency program, hopefully it is a new grad like residency onboarding position, which technically takes around like 10 to 12 weeks.
Hmm.
But if you're at like a community hospital that don't have the funds, like I've been there, man. It's like the first hospital I went to was like a little tiny hospital. Uh, and they had like a 6 week training course for new grads. And it just like it was so unorganized. So that's why we're like, okay, we're gonna put something together that really helps you guys. And so again, if you're just joining, you're just joined us. This new grad prep course is amazing just because it's our little baby.
And it's
And
wonderful coming from someone who was through like a prestigious 1 year full-on new grad program that I
wow,
was
one
in.
year?
Yeah, it
Dang.
was 1 year. And so it actually is really wonderful. And these seminars are really wonderful too. So I back everything that Allison and Mike are saying.
Oh, stop it. I mean, you guys can expect the same stuff, just like Joe is our super fan over here. Some of you guys are super fans that we really helped you in pharmacology or maybe one subject in nursing school. It's the same thing we're doing for new grad stuff. It's like the things that are really helpful, not the nice to haves, but the need to haves. And one of
Hmm.
those, where we talk extensively in the new grad prep course, and we go layers deep, is the time management. A lot of
Hmm.
time management failures, and that can really kill, especially on med surg, right, Alison? Like the trains need to run on time,
Hmm.
and when something messes up, your whole day's probably ruined, right?
Absolutely.
And it's just like, man. So the number one thing is juggling multiple patients. And I think the biggest thing that's really hard to grasp is prioritization. Like what
Mhm.
comes first? Like, and we talk about this I think in a few videos in the new grad prep course. Uh,
Mhm.
from ICU to med surge to even ER. It's really all about like who dies first and who's going to get harmed first.
Mhm.
And we talk a lot about that on the NCLEX and in nursing school,
Mhm.
but we show you how to do it in real life because it's totally different doing nursing in real life versus like on a piece of paper or on a computer. Totally different. And then also charting, how to best optimize your time for charting. And prioritizing care can feel impossible at first. So just knowing that all of this is new. You're not dumb, you're just new. And just finding your flow. It's kind of like your first semester in nursing school, where I feel like nursing school, all they do is they get like, big, huge bins of like lost and found paper. And like, here, they dump in your living room. You guys sort it out. You figure it out. And then you have to figure out when you're going to do study time, when you're going to, read your book before class, or how to organize your time before clinicals, all the things. And it's kind of the same way. You're just trying to find your cadence and your rhythm. So,
Mhm.
talk to us how to conquer some of these and some key points here.
So definitely some things to prioritize by safety. Which of your patients could potentially, who's the most unstable? So those things that you learn to take tests in nursing school, using that here. You might have multiple patients in pain, but think who also, like I worked in an ortho floor as one of my first med surge units, and all of my patients were having pain, but I would have to think, okay, who's the most fresh post-op? Because they're the most unstable. So thinking prioritize by safety, and think like, okay, well, also sometimes you might have to prioritize by, well, if this patient, well, let's say I'm going to go and see this patient because they need this med at this time, but also in the meantime, I can also get this, and this done. So trying to even see, okay, safety, but also if two people are equal, then what are some tasks that I can do together? This person needs this, but also think ahead and what else can I do during that time to save myself some time in the end. So trying to batch similar activities or thinking, kind of where do these puzzle pieces fit in my day? So taking time, especially, I think all these things go so hand in hand because you have to think about it all together. It's not just who needs me the most, because lots of times you feel like you have multiple patients who need you the same amount, but thinking about okay, where do the puzzle pieces fit in? How can I save myself time? Because yes, both these patients need pain meds, but who also needs a pain med and has a med due at this time? Or who also needs a pain med and needs the stressing changed? Because that's going to affect when those things sort of sort out in your schedule.
And also look at their see once you start to have multiple patients too, you want to see, do
Mhm.
they have something scheduled? Do they have to go
Mhm.
for or they have bedside biopsy, or they have to go to
Mhm.
x-ray or radiology, or they have to be off the floor for chemo? Is transport coming? Look at the whole picture. And
Mhm.
pain, I will always say this, pain meds, always prioritize those. Always prioritize those,
Mhm.
especially, and always look what time they're available. Even if they're scheduled at a certain time, make sure you follow those parameters. Be safe. Every 6 hours does not trump that scheduled med, unless there's a change in indication and a change in amount. That'll
Mhm.
make sense later on. But just look at the whole picture. And if you don't know how to time manage, like Nurse Allison said, ask somebody. Like, what is the
Mhm.
best way to time management this?
Yeah, and it's all about learning, right? Learn before you earn. So I'm sorry, you're gonna say something?
I was gonna say, or even ask them, like, who would you go see first?
Oh, that's a good one.
Never be afraid to ask, like, okay, because sometimes someone would say, I do actually do this first before I do that because of this, and this. You're like, oh, wait, why didn't I see that? Sometimes you're like, oh, wait, of course, that makes sense. And so asking other people can help, seeing how other people do it. And even when you're on orientation, sometimes I try to play a little game in my head of like, okay, if I weren't following this person or if I didn't have this person ask, what would I do in what order? And then see kind of compare that to what they say. And again, don't be afraid to ask why.
Hmm.
because lots of times it can just be based on their experience and you're getting that experience and you're learning from that.
That's all it really is, just learning and learning and learning. And you can pick up so much. I feel like humans learn the best uh,
Hmm.
by mimicking others, like in sports, be like Mike, or in, toddlers. Man, my brother's little niece, I'm sorry, my niece, my brother's little daughter, like she learns everything from us, even our bad habits. So
I
that's,
mean, the fact that people love to do like dances on TikTok
yeah,
and Instagram show how much we have fun, like seeing what other people do and then doing it, but adding our own flair to it sometimes. And so it's not that you have to be like the exact. I remember like sometimes feeling like I need to be this exact other person. I do everything exact the way they do it, and but still making it your own because you'll find things that work best for you. You'll find different ways to do things that maybe don't work for someone else. But sometimes how you figure that out is by seeing other people trying it out, or sometimes it gives you an idea of a way that you can make it your own.
mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Like even one of the things I remember, one of the units I worked on, they had, the brains, the what you would use to like take your change of shift report, what you would take those notes on. But there were some specific things that new grad nurse, that other one who was fresh off orientation, but she saw me using the one that like a bunch of people on the unit used. They made a bunch of photocopies. You could just grab um, at the nurse's station, and she was like, "Oh, here, I actually made my own where." I added to those where I added some things that I needed to remember to do each shift, even little things like clearing the pumps for eyes and nose, clearing how much intake. And she's like, I put that as a check at the bottom, as something to check off at the bottom of each of my patients. And she's like, so I actually photocopied my own that I made. And it was little things that she just added because she wanted to make sure, okay, I want to make sure I'm doing everything. And she was forgetting that where someone else who'd worked for a while, that was just already ingrained in their practice. They didn't have it on as something they
Mhm.
needed to visibly see to remember to do.
It's
That's
something so
awesome.
small. Yeah.
That is so good because on a recent floor that I was on, I was training a lot of nursing students and then those who were
Mhm.
coming fresh on for new grads. And a lot of the nursing students from like the local state schools, they would come into, I work at UC Davis Medical Hospital. And so they would come in, I'd be like, so have you given a report before? They're like, oh, no, 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 no. I was like, I'm going to show you how I write mine. And I'm going to show you
Mhm.
what I do. So when I take this, it's going to be abbreviated, so you don't have to write out things. And then when you read it back, I'm going to have you practice reading this back to me. You're now giving me a report. So,
Mm,
and I was like, because the main thing is, depending on what floor you're on, when you're new, be like, okay, when I'm giving report, yeah, there's
Mhm.
the nursing school way, right? But
mhm,
certain floors want to hear certain things. They want you to get to
Mhm.
the point and they want you to be like, okay, this is what's important. This is what's not. Okay. And you
Mhm.
just ask. Just ask. And I've actually was given like a certain postpartum um, sheet. And then they're like, oh, you should use this one for antepartum. This one's really good. So just like you said, Allison, they're like, oh, we suggest this one.
Mhm.
Now I don't use it for this certain floor, but their sister floor I do use it. So always listen to people like Allison and Mike are saying. Just listen to them on the tips. Be like, okay, yeah, that'd be great. And always say thank you. Say thank
Mhm.
you. It goes a long
yeah,
way.
it really does when you're the new guy, right? Everyone's always that new guy on the floor. But I know we're going pretty quick for you guys, but guys, time management is one of the biggest skills that you're gonna learn as a new grad. So I would even take a screenshot of this slide, but it's very simple. Just prioritize safety, batch your
Mhm.
tasks, and then it goes a long way to plan your shifts. And especially when you're new, your first 90 days, some nurses, or I've heard some, what am I trying to say? I've heard some nurses inside of our new grad prep course tell me
Mhm.
that they would come 30 minutes to sometimes an hour before their shifts because they would just look at their patient load. It's different for certain floors like
Mhm.
ICU, depending on your case, you'll be with that one patient the entire time. ER is totally different. You don't know what you're going to get.
Mhm.
But, depending, just plan your shift, come early, and just be ready to learn and be like a sponge. So yeah. So the next one, number four, we are almost halfway through here. So just a quick reminder for you guys, please drop in your Q&As. We see a few Q&As here.
Hmm.
Um, actually, just one, but yeah, drop them in. We're going to answer some Q&As at the very end. So, number four is fear of judgment or asking for help. This is actually really big. I think the biggest thing that's a huge fear for most new grads is you want to feel like you know everything and then you're not bringing down the unit or slowing anyone down, especially when you make the mistake of asking a grump or the Grinch for help on your shift. And then they give you like some backhanded, like, I don't have time for that. Like, who are you? No, no, no. It's like, whoops, sorry.
Hmm.
So it's very common for new nurses. You're the lowest man on the totem pole, right?
Hmm.
To feel intimidated. You feel incompetent because you are incompetent. Like literally, it's like the first time doing stuff. Like,
Hmm.
hello. Especially by seasoned veteran nurses or staff, or even your preceptor if you're matched with those Grinchy ones. Um, and you worried about looking incompetent. You feel like a dummy all the time when you don't know something. So, just like we mentioned before, we talked about just asking for help, but doing it in different ways. And it's
Hmm.
really all how you reframe and position you know yourself asking for help. Like, how would you do it? You know, and finding those mother gooses and those nurses that are willing to help, and really starting there. So, take us away on how to conquer on our top three tips here.
Especially just reframing it for yourself and thinking it's not a weakness if I'm asking for help. I'm just trying to get better. I'm trying to learn. Reframe the way you're looking at it in your head. Again, reframing to myself of, well, I want to be doing this faster. I need to be, I want to try to get off the orientation early to impress everyone versus and putting that extra stress on it when it was unneeded. And so even, reframing the way that you put the fact that you have questions, reframing the way that you pose that to yourself, especially
Mhm.
because they expect you to have questions. They expect you not to know everything. That's okay. Again, you get to be new. And you phrase questions confidently. Instead of I'm just really unsure how to and I'm so sorry, especially almost over apologizing.
Mhm.
I remember I trained a lot of new grads and I always had like so much empathy for them because I remembered what it was like. But I remember one new grad would always over apologize every time they asked a question, and was just like, I'm so, so sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm so sorry, but I've never done this before. And it's like, it's okay. I know, it's okay. And you don't have to be sorry. This is what I'm here for. And this is what we're here for, so just asking the question and being okay with saying I'm not exact, I've never done this before, or in nursing school they only showed us, but you don't even have to give that disclaimer truly,
Yeah.
because they know that you are a new grad nurse. And every
Mhm.
time that I trained new grad nurses, I would kind of assume that they had never put in an IV, or at least on a real person, because most nursing schools don't do that. That it's just the mannequin arm, and you're more lucky if you do versus the other way. I would always assume that I couldn't assume that they knew anything or had done anything by hand, because everyone has varying clinical experiences too while they're in nursing school,
Mhm.
especially during COVID and whatnot. So just phrase questions confidently and be aware it's okay to have those questions. They expect it. I would actually be more surprised if someone didn't, and more worried if someone didn't have questions, because I'd be worried that they, weren't even identifying what they didn't know. And I think it's worse to not know what you don't know than to be able to identify neural limitations. It's actually scarier to not be aware of limitations that exist. Um, because that's when you can be dangerous, really.
Yeah, that's when you overconfidence comes
Hmm.
and then cockiness comes and then you start making mistakes and that's where people get hurt. And I was young and dumb in my mid 20s thinking I thought I knew everything, yada yada. And I got like written up a few times. And this was during nursing school actually. So
Hmm.
sorry. But I wasn't the best student. But hey, look at me now. Woo, look at me, mom. No, I'm just kidding. But th these are the things we learned, you know? It's like we made all the mistakes so you guys don't have to make those mistakes. And it's okay not to know something. Like the phrase that I love, this one right here, that I love to use. If you don't know something, just don't say like, I don't know what I'm doing or I don't know. Be like, you know what? I really don't know, but I'll find out, or but I'll figure this out. Or you can even reframe it like, how would I do this, or how would you do this? It can go a long way. We're running pretty much not low on time, but like at time. So we have a few more slides to go through. We want to make sure we have enough time for your Q&As, which we don't really have that many. So pretty quiet audience today. But guys, throw in any questions you have. It's a really special time because we don't do these career nights a lot. We do them, at the end of every month, but
Mhm.
this is the time to speak up and, we have a captive audience here. So fear number five is, oh man, this is actually a big fear. Communicating with patients and families. It was funny because during nursing school, there was, what was it? There was it wasn't a rule, it was an unspoken rule where it was like, hey, if you're really good at book work, you're not going to be as good in clinicals, or vice versa. If you're really good at clinicals, you're usually not as good in book work. And it was always so funny seeing the people excel, like the shy people, like excel in, on their tests and then not do really good in patient scenarios. So, conversations about care, about pain, the biggest one is like bad news. How do you break bad news? Uh, can feel especially intimidating, especially when you're new. And just remembering that, treating someone like they're your own family, empathy goes a long way. Some of the worst empathizers are physicians or providers and doctors. They just be like, all right, this is what it is. I got another patient to see. And then now you're left 12 hours with that patient, like, oh crap, now what do I do? So just knowing therapeutic communication, again, it's a learned skill. But the first step is leading with empathy. So lead us away on that one, Allison.
And, like if we look at the basic definition of empathy, it's, seeing it from their perspective, putting yourself in their shoes. So it's not just pitying them, but it's like, how can I have empathy or truly see it from their side if, like, I've never been a patient in the hospital myself? I've never been admitted to the hospital. I've never been inpatient. So I've never had cancer. So how can I truly show empathy? It's like one thing is like you may not know what it's like to have cancer or be a patient in the hospital, but you probably know what it's like to have something going on with your body and being scared about the outcome, being
Mhm.
scared about the unknown. And so a lot of times trying to, relate to the feeling they're going through, even if you've never been in their exact situation. We've all been anxious, we've all been afraid, we've all felt out of control with what's going on in our body at some points, or being afraid to hear bad news. And so using that, because lots of times that's how you can try to relate. Because I remember sometimes it would feel like a lot to feel like, what if I don't know the right thing to say to them, or feeling like I don't know exactly how to respond to everything. And sometimes even just sitting there and listening to them, and saying, I know what you're going through is really hard and really difficult. Uh, I'm happy to sit here with you. And just at least sometimes just being present, helping people not feel alone can actually be so impactful. Uh, and if there is, if I remember, especially being a new grad, I was always like, what if they ask a question, I don't know the answer to it? And that was a big thing. So it wasn't, what if I don't know the right thing to say if they're feeling a certain way, but it was also, what if they ask something and I actually don't know because of being new? And saying, you know what, I don't want to misspeak, so let me double check. Uh, or even if you kind of think but you're just a little bit uncertain, double check. It's okay to be transparent and say, I'm not 100% sure, uh, but I will find out for you. Saying and making sure lots of times, especially when you're busy, if you say you're going to go find out, write it down so that way you do follow up. Even when I first started teaching, I've been a professor for over a decade or for almost a decade now. And when I first started, I was afraid of that too. What if students ask me a question I don't know the answer? I'd say, you know what, I don't know, but I don't want to speak. Let me write that down and I will follow up. And I would make sure that I would email the class later after I looked it up. And I actually had a lot of students that would say, thank you for actually addressing that and not just saying you were going to look it up, or, you can tell when someone's, BSing, when someone doesn't know and they're trying to wing it and they're just trying to appease your question. And so be transparent, go double check, uh, and especially practice small talk. your confidence grows with every interaction. So practicing those interactions can help. Whether that's if you're someone that hates small talk, the more that you practice it, you can get better at it with time. Uh, and so try to, instead of avoiding small talk in an elevator, attempt to do it because that can help over time just build your confidence, especially if you're more shy,
Oh
not
man,
super
yeah.
outgoing.
It builds so much rapport too, guys, like with especially with your preceptors. Just to know that
Mhm,
you're not just like a scared squirrel in the middle of the road, like, oh no.
mhm,
You're
mhm,
actually a human. And especially if the person has kids, like just ask open-ended questions like, hey, so how many kids do you have? Or like, how are your kids doing? How old are they?
mhm,
And then just let them talk. Let them talk and talk and just use like therapeutic communication, like big ears, and just, you know, let them just be a sponge
mhm,
because that's how you build rapport and that's how you build trust, especially with team. And I think an unspoken rule that we do touch on a little bit as in the new grad prep course is building that bond. And I think the best way to do it is finding your preceptor's love language. I know it sounds really weird, but it just shows the way that they're appreciated because
mhm,
you can bring gifts, and be like, oh, wow, here's like you know, I don't know, like we talk about bringing like gifts to the unit, which you should do, like donuts or cookies or something
mhm,
that's not as healthy. Uh, but let's say that doesn't resonate with your preceptor or another coworker that you're trying to win over, let's say, and they really have words of affirmation. So
mhm,
just, finding that out, observing and letting people talk and just getting to know them on a human level, it goes a long way to build that bond
mhm.
overall. Um, okay, next one here. We have two more, actually three more slides, and then we're gonna do Q&A stuff. So let's do it. I'll have Joe, if you want to add any bits and pieces at the end of these, that would be cool. But another fear is the fear of high acuity or emergency situations. Oh my gosh. I have so many stories of like in being in the emergency room and then going to other floors where someone passes out in radiology. Like the radiology people are like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Well, I just had a single episode. You're fine. Like it's all good. But rapid response calls, codes, even or even code criticals, guys, they're all major stressors for new nurses. And if you're working in the emergency department or the ICU or not, you're the nurse. You guys are trained to handle critical situations. When your patient is circling the drain or if something happens, you got to
Mhm,
be cool, calm, and collected and know exactly how to jump in. Again, it's a learned skill, but you are the nurse. You can't call for 911. You are 911. Other people will help, and emergency usually runs other departments to help as well as ICU. Um, but here's some tips on how to conquer those. And really, the number one thing is to know your role and what are you gonna do first to save that patient. And it's usually just going back to the basics, right? ABCs. But go ahead, Alice.
Absolutely. Especially learn your part. What would be your part in a code or rapid response ahead of time? And there's two components of this. If it's your patient who's coding, or if you find the patient, or if you're going to be assisting someone else. Especially if it's your first code, maybe taking more of an observer role. Unless it's your patient, then you're going to want to be more hands-on because they're going to want information from you and whatnot. But knowing what your role is ahead of time and be willing to jump in and have a role because that's especially how you're going to learn. And so even if it's not your patient this time, that when it is your patient, you're not going to feel like, a chicken with your head cut off and flustered, unsure what to do or unsure how to help. Because, it's almost better to have it not be your patient when it's the first time, helping with CPR, helping with a rapid response situation and whatnot. But sometimes that's unavoidable. Uh, but so trying to rip the band-aid off, for lack of a better phrase, and there's always going to be a first time, but trying to make sure that you are getting a chance to at least have it be as less anxiety as possible of it's your patient, you're supposed to know and act really quickly, but anytime that you can help or observe, even if you're in nursing school still, try if you know that there's a code, observe
Yes.
and help in even minor ways.
Yeah, and I would say as you enter into any room, the first thing that you want to do is you're going to look at the walls for safety. You're going to know, where's my oxygen? Where do I have all the appropriate supplies? Because maybe you're not in a room, but let's just say that in this perfect scenario, you're in your room
Hmm.
and you're getting your assignment. You go, you're not going to rely on other nurses to stock your room. This is your patient now. You want to look at all of the walls. You want to make sure that you have your suction. You want to make sure you have your tracher. You want to make sure that you have your bag. You want to have your oxygen. The oxygen works. You want to make sure you have all of that stuff. Then you're like, cool. I know I have my stuff. Where's the button? Do I have a Vocera, like a little thing if there's like, oh, I need to tap someone to say, or a double tap, or I need to do something to alarm, hey, I have a code going on? Do I have a thing on the wall that I need to push? You can ask what, and if you forget all the time, write it down and then you can look at it or ask again, be like, okay, if there's an emergency, if you're float pool and you're going to a different unit, what do I push on here on my Vocera? What we have are like little things, little speakers, little microphones, or on the wall, we have both. What do I push in case of emergency? And you want to be able to push the right button because then usually
Hmm.
the husk, like the like as a secretary of the unit will call out a thing to the whole hospital, or you just want to know the protocol. You have
Hmm.
everything on your walls that you need, all the supplies. You don't know what it is? Look at policy. What should your room be stocked with? There's always an answer. And there's always
Hmm.
a place to find that answer to your question if you're Miss like question Susie. Find out where you can find these questions, okay? And where these answers are to those questions. Make sure your room's stocked. Make sure you know what button to push. And then with these drills, usually there's
Hmm.
going to be a crash cart. Where is your crash cart? So if someone is in the room, how can I support that person? One, who's going to watch over their persons, over the rest of their assignment? Number two, who's going to grab the crash cart? Number three, does the crash cart go in the room or does it stay outside of the room? Okay,
Hmm.
that's big because you don't want to bring it in the room if you're not supposed to. Also, who's going to be the designated runner? Who's going to be, because the designated nurse who's in the code, they're going to step away from doing compressions because now they're going to be telling rapid response or whoever the doctor is what happened, and someone else is going to be taking over doing compressions. Oftentimes, that can be a student doing compressions. I was a student once and I had to do compressions.
Hmm.
Luckily, I wasn't the first person to get compressions because I didn't have that crack. I had that.
Oh, I know. That's even worse.
But you want to be able to grab the crash cart. You want to have a runner. You want someone to then take over compressions. You want someone to be writing down all of the stuff and relaying it. And oftentimes they'll have those protocols. Also, when you're doing CPR, what do they need to have underneath their back? You need to make sure you go and get the backboard in order to go under their back. What kind of bed are they on? Are they on a certain mattress that needs to be deflated? Look
Mhm.
at the whole scenario. Are you too short? Do you need to grab one of those little stools? Because you don't want to be you're ruining your back. You want to be able to go up and down like that, right? Because I'm shorty. I'm 5'2". Mike knows he's seen me in person. He's like, oh, you're shorter than I thought. I was like, yeah, I need a stool half the time. So grab the appropriate things. Know your role, like they were saying, and also know grab things on the units and where they are. And know
Hmm.
how can I support that person and who do I call? Always know that. If you don't know it, drill it into your head. If you don't know what questions to ask, ask someone what questions you should be asking. If you don't know it, find it out.
Yeah. And man, okay, so everything Joe's saying is like spot on, but it also gives me anxiety because it's a lot of information.
It is only because we have so much little time, and so I just wanted to
No,
blump it in there, be like, oh, whoa.
also too, it's like, it's just like if you guys are new at driving, right? And it's like, okay,
Mhm.
we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta take the kids to school, grab the keys, check the this, like make sure that you have enough gas in the tires should be full, and like all your pressure gauges kind of thing. And
Hmm.
it can feel overwhelming if it's your first time driving a car, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then like, little kids screaming in the back, throwing toys, or like they're crying, and all these things. But it's the same thing as a nurse, right? So that's why we're saying like be observant because
Hmm.
it's a lot, like Joe was saying, but it's actually kind of not a lot because like I work in the emergency department, everything she's saying is standard protocol. So being observant, seeing how the team comes together because nurses know exactly what to do. They'll be like, "Hey, I'm going to chart, I'll be the dictator. I'm going to be over here on the chest. Who's got airway? We're waiting for RT. So and so, this provider is coming to run the code, yada yada yada." And it's just like clockwork. And then that's how we're talking about it becomes muscle memory. But
Hmm.
so just don't think you're going to know all this stuff off the bat. And that's all we're saying is that you're not dumb, you're just new. And that's why being observant is one of the biggest assets to have.
And be
Um,
the person who sets the tone. Like if
mhm.
you're being trained by someone lackadaisical, I hope that you're not, or say you're around a whole like chill unit, or we're so chill, man. Just be exceptional, okay? Be a
Yeah.
safe nurse, protect your license, and protect like they're like your family member, okay? Like be a
Mhm.
smart nurse. It may be like anxiety provoking, but you should then rest assured, be like, I know what to grab. You're chill. I'm chill. I know what to grab. You don't know what to grab, and you're being like, oh, I'm chill. Oh, what do we grab? No, don't be that person.
Yeah, no, it's true because like that was kind of like my first job. It was very slow night shift on the emergency room. And it was like everyone just hanging out, playing, whatever games, cards, or whatever it was.
Mhm.
And then bam, we just got super busy. I'm like, holy crap, okay, now, oh my gosh. And I should have been reviewing stuff. So as a new grad, you don't have the luxury of, playing dominoes or whatever at downtime. Like review stuff, man. Start looking around the unit, be observant, big eyes, learn as much as you can. You're there to learn. Okay, so we're running not, well, we have 20 minutes left, so we want to make sure we have enough time for you guys, for your Q&As. But this one's a big one, guys. Number 7, fear of burnout and emotional overload. So, ever since COVID, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but the shelf life of a nurse used to be 5 to 10 years bedside, and then you go somewhere else. You do like,
Mhm.
teaching, you do Botox, you do nurse practitionership, you do CRNA. Now that window is decreasing big time. And I think it's because of burnout. I think it's because we have low staffing.
Mhm.
And there's new grads training other new grads, like literally 6-month-old nurses training new grads now as preceptors. And it's like you have a baby training a baby. And it's like once that you're off preceptorship or you're, off on your own now, a lot of hospitals, they're short staffed. They're like, yo, pick up overtime, pick up overtime. And you end up like overcommitting and start burning yourself out. I've heard it so many times in the first 6 months. So, yes, the emotional weight of nursing, you're dealing with death, you're dealing with trauma, you're dealing with stress, and it all hits especially hard that first year because you're new. And especially if you work in the ICU, I used to date a nurse that worked in the ICU 3 years ago. And there's something like an ICU PTSD syndrome where you still hear the bells in your ear when you go home. And you probably experienced that, right, Alison? It's like,
100%. I would literally think that I would think I would be almost asleep, think I heard my call light. I would ignore my own alarm because I would think it was like, I would think that my alarm was like a call light happening. So I'd change my alarm sound. I would even, in my sleep haze, would think that I needed to chart my own urine output if I got up to go to the bathroom. I feel like it, or anyone who's ever worked as like a server, hearing like the ticker of like a drink printer, if you work service well, if you're ever a bartender or whatnot, sometimes there's lots of times where that stuff can carry home with you. If you're hearing it
mhm.
while you're at home, it's affecting your sleep. Then oftentimes those are big signs that you're having a hard time, you know, of creating boundaries and getting your rest and protecting your energy and whatnot.
Yeah. And that's why we include it right here. It's just protecting your emotional boundaries.
Hmm.
You can care deeply. All of us do as people. But man,
Hmm.
like sometimes when you're overloaded, when you have a packed ER,
Hmm.
and your empathy runs out a lot of times when you are oversaturated.
Hmm.
But it doesn't mean that you don't care for every patient or you carry all their stuff home with you. It's kind of an applied skill that no one really teaches you, right? It's just like, hey,
Hmm.
you just dealt with what's it called, a full-on code. Now go to lunch. It's like,
Right.
what? It's like, holy crap.
And
So,
there should be like, if there is something that's really big on your unit, like someone passes or like there was a code, a
Hmm.
healthy unit at some point, preferably right after, but maybe not
mhm,
right after, will have like a little session, a little debriefing session, right? Or
Hmm.
say that you're going through like a bereavement process or like they've lost a couple people or what something has happened. They usually will offer like peer responders, like these are some
yeah,
outlets that you can have. And if your hospital doesn't have that, be the person
advocating
who
for it. Yeah.
suggests that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I answered this in the Q&A from this one person that kind of touches on fear of burnout and emotional overload. Sometimes when you have these ratios of
Mhm.
larger than 5 to 1. There was this
Mhm.
one question said, yeah, I mean, some places when I'm looking at positions, it's like 9 to 1, 7 to 1. I'm like, do
Mhm.
not do anything more than 5 to 1. If it
Mhm.
doesn't matter,
Mhm.
especially as a nurse, a new nurse, protect your license. Do not go
Mhm.
anywhere that is more than 5 to 1 ratio. That is hard enough as it is to keep up with a 5 to 1 ratio. Um, don't do it. Don't do
Mhm.
it. Don't do it. Just don't, because you're going to get burnt out and
Mhm.
you're going to get emotional overload because you're not going to be able to take care of more than 5 patients. Don't go there. Don't go to that position. Protect your license. Okay.
You
Mhm.
can always say no too. Like that's be advocating for yourself. I remember my nursing professor over 10 years ago, 2011, I've dated myself. She would tell me, like, she would tell the entire class stories where it's like, hey, I know that we're not supposed to give you this many patients, but this is what we need today. She's like, no, I'm not going to take that assignment because I need to
Yeah.
protect my license. That's not safe,
Mhm.
and I want to be a safe practicing nurse.
Mhm.
You do not want to be left with a bill because the hospitals are not going to back you up when something happens. Whoops, when something happens and you're in legal
Mhm.
court, and now it's you as the nurse with your chart. It's like, well, you knew this was unsafe, but you took that patient ratio.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So knowing that and knowing these boundaries is an applied skill. It's something you have to learn.
And if you're working in the ER like Mike was, nowadays, if they're super short and they don't have a lot of seasoned nurses to say, no, that's not right, they'll start doing stuff where they're having you go and administer care in the lobby because they don't have
Yeah.
beds.
Mhm.
Don't do that. You don't get to do that. Don't. Just say no. No.
Mhm.
Yeah. But okay, so in terms of finding, reeling it back in, finding your outlet, what do you guys usually do to find your outlet? I know for me it was like being outdoors, going to the beach or going doing something outside. But what did you guys do as new grads, Joe and Allison?
Well, I think Allison likes to go f take a flight, go
Oh,
flying.
catching flights, not feelings. Okay, nice.
Yeah, catch flights, not feelings. Traveling. I
Yeah,
even found
traveling's a
like
big.
one thing that was underrated was getting rest on my rest days.
Oh yes.
Like that is so underrated. It needs to be like protected at all cost and
Mhm.
prioritized because especially at first I would get well like when I first took my first night shift job and at the time I lived with my sister and I always wanted to be able to hang out with her and our friends and it would be my day, my first day off and they'd want to make plans and so I would give up sleeping to do that because I'd feel like I need to
Mhm.
catch up in my social life. And but that would cause me to get overexhausted and where I wasn't then getting great sleep because I wasn't prioritizing my sleeping time because I was thinking, well, now that I'm off work, let me do this, this, and this and try to jam pack too much in. And so sometimes even just planning times for things that do restore you personally, either physically, mentally, emotionally, whether that's sleep, whether that's going for walks, going for hikes, working out, things like that. Or even if it's just, um, I found taking time to you know, plan dinners, not just with friends outside nursing, but my nursing school friends or my nursing friends, because then we'd have time to commiserate outside of the shift.
Mhm.
And that wasn't where it was stressed and packed with also doing this, this, and this.
Yeah, I mean, protecting your own mental capacity. So many times we feel like we can do it all, we can do it all. And it's like,
Hmm.
that's how I felt when I was at first in college. I was like, I could do 20 units or whatever it was when the average
Hmm.
was like 12. And then I ended up burning out real quick. And you guys want to protect yourself. And just like Allison was saying, I work night shift and we have a few great questions that we want to make sure we get to. Um, but I remember night shift, my rule was I would prioritize at least 6 hours of sleep. If I got anything less than
Hmm.
6 hours, I knew it was gonna be a bad shift because I just knew my
Hmm.
body and I knew what I needed. And that's just an applied skill because I was working 5 days a week to try to build up enough money to buy my first house, like back in the day.
Hmm.
And I was doing like 3 hours, 4 hours of sleep, but oh my gosh, it was like soul crushing during night shift when you're like 8 hours in or 10 hours in, you have two more hours. The last 2 hours is like, oh, you feel like you're melting inside. So just knowing yourself and knowing how
Hmm.
much sleep and rest you need is an underrated skill.
There was
Are
this one
Absolutely.
study about being productive, and
Mm,
what would constitute being productive, and just being fluid, if you will, with how you can read your body, like Mike and Allison are saying. Say a
mm.
productive day would be prioritizing your rest. That's
Mhm.
productive.
Yes,
Mhm.
What is
you
actually
need it.
productive? Don't
Yeah.
feel guilty about it.
Hmm. You're not comping out. All right, guys, last slide. Then we have some great Q&As here, like for example, any tips for night shift nursing? I did night shift nursing for like the first half of my entire nursing career, which is I love night shift, but there's pros and cons. And also some suggestions and tips of improving time management, especially in the morning, and how to finish reports. So we're gonna get to those. But last slide here. There's a huge fear of choosing the wrong path, and I remember this going into ER because I was a tech in the emergency room, and the
Mhm.
and so many of my professors like, you need to do med surge, or you should do this, or you know what, you need to do like a new grad prep, like a residency program that's like half a year, 6 months. I'm like, oh no, what do I do? So when you first start working, you might be worried that you picked the wrong specialty or the wrong shift, like night shift, or even the wrong career path. Like, I should have been, I should have went straight to nurse practitionership or NP school. So just knowing that, it all takes time. So I'll take the first bullet point here, but just give it time. We talked about this a lot during this webinar. When we talk about layers deeper in the new grad prep course, is that guys, give yourself time. It usually takes 6 to 12 months to find your rhythm. You are not dumb, you're just new. So don't rush to put a label that your path is a mistake because, sometimes you'll end up loving something that you didn't even think that you would like sometimes.
Mhm.
Like that's probably happened to you, right, Alison? Like it's like, whoa, probably didn't.
100%. 100%. Like even like I said, you know, didn't think I wanted to do med surge necessarily, but it was the first job I got offered and I ended up liking it. I didn't think I wanted to do night shift and I ended up liking night shift.
Mhm.
Um, and so definitely don't rush yourself to label things. Don't get so committed to the idea of something that because sometimes that ends up not being what you wanted but you never know until you try.
Hmm.
Or sometimes there could be something that you didn't even think of or know existed that you end up loving.
And it
And
all
that's okay
builds,
too.
yeah, it all builds like those transferable skills
Hmm.
because it's usually I always like to say the term it's the same poop, different diaper because
Hmm.
it's patient care. You're doing prioritization, you're learning how to communicate with your coworkers. Like 80% of it, it's just all departments are almost the same. It's the actual patient care that's completely different and how to use certain equipment. But a
Hmm.
lot of the transferable skills, like how to talk to doctors, how to give shift change report, it can strengthen you. So if let's just say the only opening in your area is psychiatric nursing, and you're like, I really don't want to do psychiatric, and that's okay. You don't have to do it, but if you,
Hmm.
are pushing toward that way, there's a lot of transferable skills that you can actually apply to another unit until you get to
Hmm.
your dream unit. And then the last one here is just to stay curious, be a lifelong learner. Never the worst mistake you can make is being like, I already learned that or I already know about that. We are
Hmm.
literally learning like they change CPR, man, like every 5 or 10 years. And it's like, what the heck? I thought CPR was like, one and done. Like that's how it's done. And they're finding new things out all the time.
Hmm.
So just know that, shadowing other departments, talking with other nurses in different specialties, exploring future options, even um, going to like nursing conferences, talking to CRNAs, talking to nurse practitioners. Joe just transferred the mother baby units. Allison started on the med surg units.
Hmm.
And it's like, you don't really know what you don't know. I was supposed to be a nurse practitioner. And I'm like, that was my goal all through nursing school. I didn't even know that I really liked education. And good thing I did because we wouldn't even be here today. So it's
Hmm.
cool. So life is an oyster. Just don't be scared, be prepared, but keep yourself open to a lot of things. And everything you guys learn your first year, it will be transferable throughout your entire
Hmm.
nursing. So we have 8 minutes left. We're gonna get to some Q&As, but before we do, as mentioned before, we have our little brainchild here, our little baby, which it seems like none of the other big box NCLEX programs do. Like no one really helps you with your new grad prep course, right? There's a bunch of amazing question banks help you with your NCLEX. But no one really, everyone just leaves like an orphan child afterwards. So if you just joined us, we want to let you guys know, as the first ones to know here, that we have a new grad prep course on everything you need to know of how to master your new grad, actually how to get your job. We sat down with interview questions with actual hiring managers from Ivy League hospitals to building resumes to what preceptors want to see out of you. And then we even offer a skills refresher library where you have 100 quick training skills videos as well as cheat sheets. And we go through everything from diagnostics, from heart attack to CHF to diabetes, all in 90 seconds, plus skills in 60 seconds. So it's really everything you need. Plus, we have career guidance, and we all wrap it up into CEUs. So you actually get CEUs. And it's only 79 bucks. You guys can scan the QR code for this 20% discount. I believe it, well, the entire thing lasts for a whole year for $79, which is great. I think that, we should probably increase that price. No, I'm just kidding. But but I think it's a great value, I would say. And we birthed this child together, so I think it's just an amazing thing. It's a resource I wish I would have had as a new grad. So I'm gonna leave that up here, guys. If you guys feel free to scan that or click the link. I think Joe will drop it. She just dropped it in. Look at you, just to read more about it. But don't be scared. Be prepared as a new grad nurse. So
Ooh,
yeah, what are we
uh,
looking at?
I was gonna say, I saw a great question. What tips would you suggest in improving time management, especially in the mornings when you're finishing report, unit meetings, passing meds, and assessing patients and charts? Um, I found that honestly, for me, showing up early, even though I wasn't allowed to clock in, and so technically I wasn't getting paid for that time, but really I've would start the shift feeling so much less chaotic and a little bit like almost it was like, okay, well, this is time I'm choosing to do. Yes, I'm not getting paid for it, but at least it's going to make my paid time go that much better because I would at least have a little bit of a head start of a plan. And for when I'd get report, I would already kind of have some baseline information down, getting report and have in my mind a few questions to ask. So that's one of the big things I found. Joe, what are some things that help you?
I would say when you're prioritizing the very end of your shift, you want to see what meds need to be passed, what labs need to be drawn. Because depending on if you are going to be doing, like, if you're night shift, you need to make sure
Mhm.
that certain things are put into phlebotomy. If you have to do like newborn screenings, or say that phlebotomy because you have a hard stick and you know that they need to be put in by a certain time,
Mhm.
I would say make sure that you have the important meds done. Make sure that you have the important vitals done, whether they're every, Q4, Q6, whatever it is. Make sure you have your eyes and nose completed, have all of the charting done, have all of your meds passed. And then if you're like, okay, I know I'm gonna be right, I know I just take too much time, then give yourself extra time. Start
Mhm.
earlier. Usually there's like a buffer, like an hour range, like an hour before, an hour after. You can kind of give certain meds. They're not like time
Mhm.
specific, where it can be like 30 minutes for an antibiotic. I can give that on either end of 30 minutes.
Mhm.
Or say it's like a blood pressure med, but it's once daily. You can give that with like an hour window. Make sure you look at what meds are just once a day, and also time them out too. Like, say like you have to give a snack, or say like you have to give like an iron med, but it can't be given with dairy or with food. It has to be on an empty stomach, but you need to give it with the vitamin C, but definitely not with
Mhm.
any Tums or with lactulose. Or make sure you look at the meds and what the parameters are. Try to schedule those out by a certain time, so then 30 minutes before you're supposed to give report, everything's done.
Mhm.
Because something will come up. It always does. Someone poops. Someone falls. There's a emergency. Someone threw something, or maybe you just might have 20 minutes to sit. Just maybe. So start early.
All right, that was a great question. Uh, let's see. And I think we talked about the unit ratios. Oh, tips for night shift. I really liked night shift. I would say one,
Sure.
going back to the sleep thing, prioritize, especially. trying to get rest, trying to get sleep.
Hmm.
Any tips that they say, try them all. Blackout curtains, earplugs, um, even like things like making sure you're wearing sunglasses. I put a baseball cap on my drive home, so that way it wasn't like super sunny and bright in the middle of summer, and I wanted to do anything but go and be in bed. It's easy to get your sleep and to want to get sleep when it's snowy, rainy, and whatnot, but not when it's like nice and sunny and people are going to the beach or people are out on patios. Um, so definitely any of those tips that for like good sleep hygiene, um, highly recommended.
Hmm.
Because the better sleep you get, then the shift, there's nothing worse than like if you're exhausted, can barely keep your eyes open, the night drags, even if you have so much to do. But there's not enough caffeine in the world. Like you're just
Yes,
slowly trying to turn your blood into caffeine, and it's not enough.
And like, I
that's
wonder
what I
about
think.
like working out because, like, yeah, you want to prioritize your
Mhm.
time, but like prioritize your time off. But being healthy, you're like, oh, I'll just go hit up the gym on the way home. Well, doesn't that like, in my mind, I'm like, well, that's gonna amp me up. I know if I go off shift, I'm gonna go to the gym. No way, I'll be up for hours because it's gonna get everything going and flowing. So do it before you go
Mhm.
to work. Maybe there's a shower there, or
Always.
do it on
I
your way home when it's gonna be a day off. Then go.
Right. I would usually I found that if I didn't like wake my body up, I would be going and dragging, especially if you don't get enough sleep. Even if I didn't get great sleep, I would still try to do something to wake my body up. Even if, it was 15 minutes, 10 minutes, there was such a difference in the way that I felt as far as like my mind being awake as well. Even if it was just going for a walk, nothing crazy, but I found that that helped me so much. And sometimes I do that on my shift too. I would literally like go for if I needed a quick wake me up. There was another nurse and we would do a quick like with our 15-minute break, we do a quick power walk. Or like there was sometimes she was getting ready for a wedding, so we do abs in the break room, and that would actually like sometimes wake me up more than a cup of coffee or a Red Bull, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like I just dropped in my top tips for I think it was what was her last name? Lauren Johnston. But speaking of caffeine, like the Red Bull stuff and getting your blood flowing, my biggest one was limiting your caffeine. Overdoing it can tax
Hmm.
your adrenals and just burn you
Hmm.
out even further. As mentioned before, sleep, my thing was anything less than 6 hours of sleep, I wasn't going to be a good shit for me. And
Hmm.
then I think the biggest one that we all forget is meal prepping. And it's not just for fitness
Hmm.
enthusiasts. It's if you don't want to gain that 15 to 20 pounds, even 30 pounds your first year, because man, there's so much crap food in the hospital. And if you're not prepping your food and being somewhat healthy, you're going to start filling your body with fast food and all the stuff that they drop off, all these pizza days. And you don't want to do
Hmm.
that. So,
And planning out the snacks that give you the snacks and food that give you the most energy. Because especially like and paying attention to your body, noting like when you eat certain things, how does it make you feel? Because like yeah, it's gonna be fun to eat. If someone brings donuts, to eat a bunch of donuts, but then lots of times you get that sugar crash, and it hits harder on night shift. The sugar crash can hit a lot harder, especially again if you're not getting as you're getting used to getting the adequate sleep.
hmm, yeah. All right, guys, we have one more question. We're at time, but let's answer this last one for Joe M. So it's an NCLEX question. And just to remind everyone, we have NCLEX webinars every other week.
Mhm.
During peak seasons, we have NCLEX webinars every week. So we're going to be doing one tomorrow. So come with all your questions. But your question, Joe, is that you're always stressed out when taking exams and you're trying to bundle videos and all the study materials to understand the content. But what is my percentage to pass the NCLEX? So we go through this a lot, every single NCLEX webinar. When to know when you're ready to take the NCLEX, what percentages you actually need. But really quick, the rule of thumb is anything over 1,000 to 1,500 questions, and your last 2 or 3 weeks, you should be getting scores. Every day your score should be over 65%. And you're
Mhm.
trying to hit 85 to over 100 questions. But we go layers deeper and we show you exactly when to know when you're ready or when to know when you're not ready and just push your date back.
Mhm.
The worst thing you could do is go and just jump out of the airplane with holes in your parachute or holes in your
Mhm.
knowledge. And then you fail the NCLEX. And then you paid all the state fees. You have to pay all the other ones. You still have to wait 45 days. Then you have to explain to all your family and friends that you failed the NCLEX. And so it's a whole ugly, bad situation. So if you don't want to do
Mhm.
that, join us tomorrow for our NCLEX webinars. And it should be really fun. So thanks, guys, so much for joining us today. Thank you, Joe and Professor Allison.
Thank you
Uh,
guys.
yeah, appreciate you guys. We do these career nights every single month at the end of the month. And again, if you are really nervous about your interview, setting up your resume, how to get a job, and once you get the job, you know what to do once you are the nurse.
Mhm.
We show you guys everything you need to know before you go. And it's all in the new grad prep course. And so it's right here for you guys, 20% off. And, we're just giving you guys stuff that we wish we had. So, again, thanks so much. We're probably sending out a short survey to you guys emailed. So take a look at that and appreciate it.
Oh, one thing, because I can't copy and paste this.
Yep.
Who's this? This is who's the person? James. Can you please email, if that's continuing, www.elitelearning.com forward
Mhm.
slash contact dash us. Um, com, and then we can help you out with I guess there might be a payment thing going on, so if you guys cannot make a payment for some reason with signing up, don't worry, we're going to extend the coupon for at least the next couple weeks, so check back tomorrow if it doesn't work, but please go ahead, James, and contact www.elitelearning.com forward slash contact dash us.
I
Okay.
wonder why you can't paste it. That's weird.
I'm
Oh,
not
well.
sure either, but we're here. I'm writing in the chat right now because I know me verbally saying it is like, Joe, what are you doing?
And Joe, what the
But
heck?
here, write this down, email them, elitelearning.com forward slash contact dash us. I think there's a forward slash, but
Oh,
that's a website, not an email, FYI. So sorry. Go to that site, not the email. Thank you, Robin.
thanks, Joe.
So go there, contact us, say, hey, I can't make a payment. We will go ahead and honor the grad
There we
20.
go.
Don't you worry.
All right, we got it going on. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us. We do appreciate y'all. Um, Again, here is the link, and appreciate you guys for joining our new grad career nights. And don't be scared, be prepared. Join us next month, or just join our new grad prep course, and we will be here next month at the same time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys.
Oh, there you go. You actually did copy and paste it. That's nice. Very good.